Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak here on the broadcast. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. On my immediate right is Dr. Reuben Kigame. He is a presidential aspirant and wears many hats. But Dr. good morning.
Good morning to you, Ayub.
Appreciate it. Yeah,
it's a nice, morning.
Yes.
Yeah, the air is fresh. You haven't polluted the city yet this morning. It was very nice out
I wish you had come with the guitar.
Well, this is a different kind of panel.
Yeah.
We don't want to play music in the morning.
Yeah.
Let's go back to basics, and there's a lot happening today. I know you know that the president is going to be addressing Parliament.
Yes.
So let's wake up our minds to what's actually happening in the nation.
Okay. And the reality is ahead. Mark Nyamita, MP, Uriri constituency. Good morning.
Good morning, Ayub.
I appreciate it. Many thanks for your time. FCPA Hesbon Omolo is an economist and council member of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants, Kenya. And Senator John Yutu is in studio. Shortly, he will be mic'd and he will be part of the panel to form the quartet of the gentlemen this morning. Appreciate it. First, Reuben, coming to you. And we'll be getting snippets of the address by the president last year in November 2024 in Parliament. But it's the state of the nation, Dr. Reuben Kigame. In your view, is our direction of travel right?
First of all, I need to complain to you. You don't have any ladies on the panel this morning. This is very segregative. Maybe next time. Looking at the state of the nation, you've got to always go back to the foundational issues. What really informs the direction of a nation? And as far as I'm concerned, the way government is being done is actually neglecting the fundamentals, and for that reason, we are going the wrong direction. There are things, of course, that this government is doing right, and it's not like every day when you wake up in the morning, everything is going wrong. But when the foundations are wrong, Ayub, in terms of the philosophy, in terms of the priorities, and with regard to how you actually prioritize citizens in particular, then you'll not actually be able to find your radar. So my main complaint is that, for example, we run the country as if it's a business. You know, all these allocations you'll be hearing later today will be focusing on electricity, you know, the last mileage and all of that, what has been allocated to health sector and education and so on. But when you look at the actual priorities, you realize that this particular government is more interested in infrastructural development and not so much the changing of the individual lives of the people. I think the philosophy should always be, if any policies or projects are not serving the uplifting of the lives of the people, then they should be abandoned.
Thank you. Senator John Yutu, good morning.
Good morning, Ayub.
Appreciate it. Many thanks for your time.
Thank you too.
Asante. Honorable Mark Nyamita, in your view, what's the state of the nation ahead of the State of the Nation address?
Thank you, Ayub, and I think it's a good day to be here today when 3 years later we are all eager to listen to the head of state talk to the nation about the progress of this nation, where we are from, where we are, and of course where we're going. I'm actually very glad to be sitting with a presidential aspirant. I hope after this I will be picking his contact, just in case in the future something were to happen, he will remember me.
Is that future 2027?
Well, he will tell me, but I don't see a lot of, 2027, I don't see a lot of competition in the presidential seat, maybe beyond 2027. But either way, I will pick his contact. But thinking about the nation, I think there cannot be prosperity without the right infrastructure. And I think that the focus on trying to build the infrastructure is to try and create a little bit of independence for the citizenry. Because without the right infrastructure, and infrastructure, you know, is extremely broad, Kenyans cannot be able to thrive. People who are in agriculture cannot be able to take their produce to the market. People who are in the SMEs cannot be able to explore the full potential of whatever businesses they are in. So I think the focus on infrastructure. But there are many enablers, and we can be able to look at, or from the time this regime came into power to this particular time, that there are positives, and I think there are still also many areas that there is room for improvement. But I think that the positives, in my view, are actually, for example, I think that today, Kenya is a construction site, because in every single part of this nation, there is a project that is ongoing. I can tell you, Ayub, it's been a long time. There has been construction going, but you know, sometimes it is only in particular regions. This time, I can tell you, every single part of the nation, at least as a national government project, something seems to be happening.
Okay.
The attempt at inclusivity, including, for example, health. When we have over 25 million people under cover, the health initiative has a few challenges, but I actually think that even by the sheer number of people who have been included, who can now be able to access, every single day Kenyans are having their bills paid, I think that is a good thing.
Okay, we'll expound much more on that, and also vis-a-vis the active contributors of that number that you talked about.
Correct.
And which of course informs the premiums. Hesbon, of course, now giving us the economic perspective, is this the apt headline by the Standard says that Kenyans have spoken, they do not need another ritual of promises, they need a state of the nation that starts where life is actually lived, in the insecurity, the hunger, the shattered services, and the daily grind of 13 million households. Until leaders speak to that honest, painful baseline, every grand vision remains just another speech drifting above a struggling nation. And going by past rhetoric, it could be another session of oratory full of sound bites and fury, signifying nothing.
It's a heavy one.
Yeah.
Looking at what the Standard has captured, largely speaks to the challenges the country is undergoing. Of course, whatever the president will read today in terms of the state of the nation, ultimately the bottom line is how does it affect the person at the household level. And I think there are hits and there are missed targets. One of the biggest pain points that this current regime has to deal with is the fact that while there are notable progress around the food security in terms of agricultural production going up, at the household level, the disposable income is still down. And because of the recent changes in our tax laws that directly reduce the disposable income, some of the notable progress are now dimmed, and therefore it's important that a balance is struck in a way that leaves the consumer with something to take home at the end of the day, so that while we appreciate the good progress, for example, housing, we are doing a marvelous work across the country, but it is supported by deductions from the payslip of the common employee, and that then makes it very difficult for the employee to feel that they have money to survive on a day-to-day basis. So that is a challenge. But again, how do we ensure that we walk with everybody along the journey? That is a challenge the president must try to navigate. The other concern would be our economy. We have the public debt, which is a big issue. This country pays almost 70% of the taxes we collect, if not more, towards debt service. That denies the government the revenue that should deliver the services, and therefore we must find ways to generate more resources to run the country. That means probably raiding the pocket of the the ordinary citizen, and it's not sounding nice. So I think we have to find the right balance. But I think on a balance or a scale of 1 to 10, I would give a 60% around some of the key issues. 40%, especially that which touches the common man, there is still something to be done. Because if that is not addressed, you may do very nice things, but you still find yourself addressing a very angry nation. And you wonder, why are people angry when there are quite some notable? So the good ones are now masked with this challenge that the members of the public
including the value of the shilling in the pockets of Kenyans, and talking about disposable incomes and how this has led to a squeeze in household budgets because of taxation and borrowing. Of course, we'll talk more about also our deficit management, corruption, as also the budget cycle now begins ahead of the 2026-27
Yes, exactly. And the exercise that began yesterday when the CS Treasury rolled out the process of running out the budget is something we all need to keep an eye on, because that is where the rain starts beating us.
Senator John Yutu, what in your view has happened in the past 2 State of the Nation addresses by the head of state, and how different in your view will this be?
Thank you, Ayub. And I may hold views that are very different, of course, from my colleagues here, and of course we will be agreed on several of them. But I think most of the things that the president is going to promise today, if what he has been doing previously is anything to go by, of course are things that he does not even believe in. He does not actually, you know, after that, it will be left there. And maybe just to look at the things that he could be talking about, and I've heard him say that he wants to transit Kenya from a third world to a first world country. Although I've never heard him say what has prevented him from doing so. He keeps saying that he wants to bring, everybody together so that we can achieve that position, you know, of joining the first world. I don't know what has prevented him from doing that, but Ayub, if you allow me, I think most of the priorities that we have seen in this government, for me, I think they have been lopsided. Because I have heard people praise this housing project and, you know, and say, I have heard my friend Mark Nyamita say that it's a construction site. I mean, Kenya is a construction site, it is true. This housing project thing is happening all over. But then you may want to ask yourself, is it a priority? Because if you ask me, I would be of the view that if we invested more on food security, you know, I know Mark will talk about fertilizer, subsidized fertilizers, but exactly what are we doing to make sure that in the long term we will have food security? Do we need these houses more than, for example, dams in some areas where we can produce a lot of, a lot of food, like Ukambani, northeastern region? There are some arable lands, but that, of course, and the rains do come in those areas, but then we do not harvest this rainwater. So do we actually need these houses more than we would need dams? What is happening in our education sector? I mean, schools have no capitation, and that is true. That is a fact. That capitation is not being disbursed at the right time, in the right, amount. I mean, do we need houses more than we need education? What about health? There has been this, this is SHA that has been overrated. But listen to stories of patients. Yes, SHA pays part of the bills, but sometimes there is another bill, much bigger, that is not covered by SHA, which most households are not able to meet. So you would ask yourself, do we need these houses more? And remember, we may not have time, but remember, this housing scheme is something that there are so many questions about this, because remember, there is a housing levy behind it. Remember, these houses are constructed on government land, remember that once they are completed, and these are houses built from taxpayers' money, they are then sold. Because, these houses, what we would have done if it had to be a housing levy, then maybe as a startup capital for like 2 years, then we say we are collecting, you know, housing levy or tax from people to construct houses. But then, after we sell these houses, because they are being sold, then we use the proceeds to construct more houses, and then, you know, scrap housing levy. But you cannot, you know, build these houses using taxpayers' money, then sell to Kenyans, and remember again,
yes,
you are selling to people. I mean, it is not clear who is supposed to buy these houses. And you look at the economy.
It is clear because it's segmented into the categorization aspects, and that includes affordable housing for the middle class units under the bottom-up transformation economic agenda.
That's it, but who is middle income? That's
so you have outlined affordable housing. Prioritization is your...
Prioritization is my major concern.
And you cited housing, education, health, and yeah.
And the economy, allow me to mention something about the economy. I mean, and I like what FCP, I mean, let me call him CPA Omolo has said, that it all depends on what impact it has on the common mwananchi. These programs, the economic programs, everything. Look at the economy. Today, I have come from Thika, Ayub, and you will see Matatu struggling to get people to ferry to Nairobi at this hour. And you know, a few years ago, I mean, it was very difficult for you to even get a Matatu
so
those are the indicators that we, ordinary Kenyans, would be concerned about.
Here's the accountability question then, Senator. You supported all these key projects when they were outlined in the manifesto. As a leader then, instead of you and Honorable Mark Nyamita, because you are privileged and given the mandate to represent the people of Uriri and Murang'a County respectively, instead of being a country that is crying of lamentations of a broken nation, what then should be done from an integrity perspective to be critical enough when these things are launched and how realistic they are for them to be accomplished?
Thank you, and that's a very good question. And you say that we supported some of these programs. It is true, we even voted for them. But remember, what was sold is actually not what came. Remember President Ruto in his campaigns never talked about a housing levy. He talked about something that we can call, he may not have called it that, but a housing fund, where everybody remembers that he said that if you contributed to this particular fund for some time, like 5 years, and you wanted to get a reimbursement of what you had contributed, that it would happen if you didn't need a house, according to him, that after some time, your contributions could be reimbursed to you. But what came after that? It was a housing levy, not a fund. A levy is a tax. It's not a fund.
Okay.
And so they were clothed, these programs were clothed in some very, very attractive kind of government.
Because you did mention...
I'll allow him to finish here. I'll come to yes.
Yes, so what was sold is not what finally came. So, and that is why we thought, like Shah, when Shah, for example, President Ruto was selling Shah, he would say that every other Kenyan would be covered fully. In fact, he's on record having said that if you go to a hospital and you are charged an amount of money, that you should report that particular facility to the police.
And I have that snippet of the manifesto well laid out, but also you belong to Parliament, so where responsibility also, which is a guardrail, constitutional setup as an accountability measure. Yes, Dr. Kigame.
When you hear a professional like Hesbon, or brother CPA, tell you that 70% of what we raise is going to debt, he's not guessing. That is the truth. Why should that be the case? We all need to go back to why we are borrowing in the first place. And the story is clear that we often borrow for specific projects, and then you realize those projects are actually either not complete or they're not being done. But my concern is what I would call a bandit allocation that sits on throwing money at issues without necessarily looking at what exactly you're funding and the results of what you fund. Let me just take education as an example. In the 2022 to 23 financial year, the allocation was at about 544 billion. The year after,
23-24 now.
23-24, it went to 626.
Yeah.
The year after, it went to 656. Mbadi has projected now to 702 billion. So you can see the spiral, it's climbing. Now, when you ask what this money is doing, when a lot of children are not going to school, when a lot of college students cannot pay their fees, they are hungry, wanasema wameinama. When you have no allocation in Mbadi's budget to special education, I haven't seen it. And you look at what we are spending on education vis-a-vis what could provide free education, and you're alarmed. Because if you just, used the statistics of the 2023-24, I think you can even push into 2025, and you allocated, let's say, 15,000 per student in the primary school education system. You allocated maybe 27,000 shillings to every high school student, and you allocated about maybe 200,000 to every university student. You could actually provide free education with nearly 50% of the current allocation. Okay. So you ask yourself, where is all this other money going? That's why I'm calling it a gobbling economy, because you are allocating money, a lot of money. You even keep raising the income generation. For example, so our total income is projected to go to about 3.3 trillion. And yet what we are allocating for 4.2. Okay, so meaning you're going to be borrowing close to 900.
About nearly 1 trillion.
Yes. So here's, if you ask anybody who runs any economy, whether it's just a family economy, a company economy, any institution, you don't allocate money for what you don't have.
Okay.
So you live within your means. If Kenya is blessed enough to raise 3.3 trillion, then our budget should be against that kind of projection. We are borrowing, and if the figures are out there, if we are reading the figures out there correctly, our margin now in terms of what we've borrowed is coming to about 12 trillion.
That's the national debt?
Yes, national debt. Now, when you have that kind of national debt, you are in a crisis, actually. So what you need to do is stop digging deeper, look at where all that money went, and some of it in the public domain discussions are about odious debt. Right. And so the issue is, why are we spending what we don't have? So when you say you want to become like Singapore, and you say you can make Kenya a first world country if you had another 4 trillion. The question is, what have you done with the 3.3
available
that is available?
Okay.
And so if you're just simply cranking the figures, then you look at what my brother John called food security there.
Okay, thank you.
And you look at the current number of people in Kenya that are hungry. It's projected that between 1.8 million and 2 million Kenyans are actually living in acute hunger situation. And because of the decline in the short rains that we're talking about this season, then that number is going to be going up to 2.1 million.
Okay.
What are the areas that are affected? Baringo, Marakwet, Marsabit, the same areas that we were raising food for in 2022 when I was leading the Okoa Maisha initiative.
Okay.
So in other words, our priorities are all wrong.
Thank you.
Let me just make one point about
please.
housing, because
you'll make that after the break.
No. This is the point. That as we're building houses, we are actually evicting people from Makongeni and Jericho and taking houses that are theirs instead of going to find spaces where we can build those new houses.
Thank you, Ruben.
So everything is upside down.
Okay, after the break, I'll come to you first. We still have time. Honorable Mark Nyamita and FCPA has been here on the broadcast on the State of the Nation. Also, look back at the President's 4 key thematic areas in last year's address to Parliament. All that is after the break here on the broadcast. Stay tuned.